So one final big question, because we touched on it a little bit, but for anybody who doesn't know, um, July of 2021, right?
Yep.
Some things changed, something happened. It was huge.
Yeah, things changed that definitely came up and smack you in the mouth a little bit. I was uh, playing tennis with my good buddy Mike in Las Vegas and indoors. It was a nice Saturday morning, and started to feel a little wonky right after I hit a great backhand volley.
Mhm.
And long story short, after a few minutes of realizing this wasn't dehydration or my low blood sugar, my buddy got me out of there, and I ended up going to two places, total, but I had a massive heart attack,
Wow.
and did was kind of worried that that was the case, and they got confirmed with the first spot that we went into, and that was a place that was not capable of treating me, and so they got me the hell out of there very quickly and got me into the big trauma center down the road. And
Do you
yeah, I had
mind talking a little bit about what you were thinking and feeling in those moments? Was it a blur? Was it
You
what?
said wonky. What were the symptoms that you were feeling? I'm your age, so this kind
yeah
of something that I would love to.
Yeah, so let's start with what most people consider and cliche, stereotypical I'm having a heart attack thing, because we see it on TV and the movies all the time. And one is like, oh, my left arm is, hurting, or it's paralyzed. That happens. Or there's an elephant sitting on my chest. Like, yeah, that happens too. Um, I had none of that. I felt a little wonky. I thought that my blood sugar had just kind of crashed, because that had happened 2 or 3 times in the same place, playing the same game, the same Saturday mornings months prior. And because I didn't eat enough, or I didn't stay ahead of my water, because that's very important, especially when you're in a climate like the desert, even though you're indoors, or like in the South, like today, I was playing golf, and it's not as hot and humid, but 2 weeks ago it was. So you gotta stay
Right.
hydrated. Um, and I just felt a little kind of like woozy and weird. I was like, oh, that's not, and I thought it was my blood sugar or my dehydration. And so I took myself off the court and sat down on the side for a little bit, but then things felt really weird. I saw some weird colors for a minute, and my hands and feet got real tingly. And then Mike had brought me another Gatorade because he thought it was, my dehydration. And I took a sip of it, and then I spilt it and rolled around in it. And I was like, I'm just not functioning. Like, what is this? Is the worst
Wow.
dehydration I've ever had. And they kept playing. So I was rolling around on the side of the tennis court having a massive heart attack, not knowing I was having a heart attack at the moment.
Oh
And then
my
I
goodness.
finally sat up and felt different and could sit on the bench. And I had no pain. I didn't have any discomfort. I didn't have the left arm thing. I didn't have the shortness of breath. I could breathe fine. And I'm sitting there just kind of really trying to focus and concentrate on what was happening and why it wasn't getting any better. And it was just changing. And Mike came over and was like, "You gonna jump back on the court?" And right before then, I started feeling a little pulse down both of the inside of my arms, and I realized that that was cardiac, and I knew that was probably not good. And I noticed that right when he walked over to me, and I said, "I'm actually sitting here trying to figure out if I'm having a heart attack or not." And he said, "No shit." I said, I don't know. And he used to be an EMT, years and years ago. And he came over and started checking me out and looking at me. And he's like, "Yeah, okay, we're out of here." And I said, "Yeah, we should probably go get this looked at." He said, "Yeah, we're out of here. Let's go." And luckily we did. Because I went to this kind of elevated, it wasn't an urgent care and it wasn't a trauma center, but it was an ER. It was like a ER in a box, like set up like an ER for, things that you don't go to the big hospital for. And walked in there. Luckily, nobody was in there, and they took me back and got me set up. And when they finally got the 12 lead on me and they could get a EKG, that doc walked around the corner and he stopped dead in his tracks. And I went, "Oh shit." And he goes, "Okay." And he started barking out orders to his staff. And then he came up to me and said, "You can't stay here." And I said, "Okay." And he goes, "You're having a massive heart attack right now. And I got to get you out of here."
Wow.
And I said, "Okay." I said, "I was afraid of that, but okay." And they did great work getting me prepped, and started to push those preliminary stuff that help you get through something like that. And a few minutes later, there was an ambulance at the side door. They threw me in that, and she gunned it down down the road about 2 miles to the big ER. And I got in there, and they were waiting for me, because they had called
What's
ahead. And
going through your mind when you're in that ambulance?
Well, the whole time, especially when it was confirmed that I was no bueno, I was trying to stay calm. I was trying to stay cool. I was trying to stay collected. When I walked into that first place, I was not under my own steam as well as I was before. I was kind of going downhill.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know exactly what was happening. I just know it wasn't good, and I was kind of not capable of performing to my abilities.
Yeah.
And then it was confirmed as like, you're having a massive heart attack. It's like, well, shit. And so what I really did, I tried to stay focused, and I tried to stay calm, and I tried to stay centered on what was going on, and just really kind of relax as much as you can, because so much is going on, and there's so much going on around you, and people flying around, they're throwing lines in, and they're pushing meds. And I was freezing, because one of the big signs is when you just flop sweat, like you dump sweat when you're having a heart attack. And I sweated more in a 90-second span than I did for the hour I was playing tennis, like all at once. Just, and so I'm soaking, and I'm freezing, and my shirt's off, and my pants and feet are soaked because I'm just sweaty. And you're freezing, but then so much is going on. And one of the things that I did, I was trying to listen and concentrate on everything that was going on and what they were doing. And because I'm not a doctor by any means, I've watched a lot of TV and I've read a lot of books. And so and I read a lot of magazine articles on health and surgeries and procedures and things like that. I'm fascinated by it. I'm no expert by any means. But I was trying to pay attention and listen to everything. And every time they put a new line in or pushed a new drug, I asked what it was. And so the only time I got a little kind of like, oh shit, was when they put the automatic defib pads on you. Because now they don't, like, if they have to shove, they do, but they put some on you. So if they do it, they should have, it automatically shocks you. I was like, I don't want to get shocked. I don't want to get shocked, because that means one, I'm VFib, or because you don't shock a flat line. You can a flat line, that's TV. They don't shock a flat line. And so if I was in VFib or VTAC, and to get shocked to get it back in rhythm. So I was trying to stay calm. Never got shocked. So and they worked on me, and then they called ahead because there's a STEMI protocol. So I was having a STEMI, which is they used to call it a hot MI. A hot myocardial infarction. Now, and I was having an ST elevated myocardial infarction, which is basically when one of your coronary arteries, mine was the right coronary artery, ruptures. And so it ruptured internally. So it had, a bulge and a build out, and it ruptured internally. So your body responds by clotting, because it has a hole somewhere. So your body needs, like, if you cut your hand, it would clot, and the bleeding would stop. So your body throws a big clot to plug this hole. And what happens is this clot grows so big that it shuts off that artery completely. And so the whole right side of my heart, by this time, the clot was growing big, and I was going downhill, because the right side of my heart was getting no blood or oxygen to the muscle that makes it go. Not the heart, not the muscle, not the blood inside the chambers that gets pumped to the rest of your body. It's the blood that keeps your heart muscle alive actually was 100% blocked on for way too long of a time. And that's not good.
No.
So they rushed me out of there. And so that whole time I was trying to stay very focused and very calm, trying to keep my head about me while I should be freaking out. And I knew that would be the mistake, because then that gets your blood pressure up, to get your heart rate up, that, Kim, it gets you all, whacked out. And I was trying to stay very, very focused. And then even in the ambulance ride, I remember not wanting to ever be in an ambulance as the subject. Like that should not be a life goal, is to be in an ambulance, right, and the person that is getting taken somewhere. And especially going like 100 miles an hour down the street to get you somewhere with the sirens and everything going. And then once you got into that other emergency department, this whole team was waiting in the cath lab team. So they were throwing new meds in. I kept asking what was going on. What was that? What was this? This is dopamine. This is morphine. This is heparin. This is fluids to keep your pressure up, et cetera. I was like, okay. And it was very, very fast, very, very fast, like things happening very, very quickly. And then the cath lab team was waiting to take me. And then it's sort of that cliche, you're on a gurney and you're flying and all you see is the fluorescent lights in the hallway of a hospital flying by you. And then you're in an elevator going up to the cath lab to where they can hopefully save your bacon. And I do remember, because it was one of the things I tried to stay focused and talk to everybody that was doing something with me. And because I wanted to stay conscious as long as I didn't want to go out. And I think that's what it was. Because I think if I maybe was subconsciously thinking if I go out, that's harder to come back, or stay awake, stay coherent, stay with it. And I think I just tried to focus on that. And I remember the cath lab nurse grabbing one of my open lines and took the syringe and was getting ready to push something. And I said, "Now what is that?" And she goes, "This is a little fentanyl." And I said, "They just gave me some of that." And she pulled that thing out and she goes, "They did?"
Oh.
And I went, "Yeah." She goes, "Downstairs?" I said, "Yep, about 2 minutes ago." And then she looked at the chart and goes, "Okay, we'll hold off on this right now."
Wow.
Oh my God.
And I went, "Thanks." And because let's backtrack a few minutes ago, when I'm in that emergency department, the right side of my body started going really shocky. So like the right side was just bouncing all over the place and going like this. My leg and foot and my whole right side was just doing this. And I looked at the doctor, I was like, "I'm not doing that." And he goes, "That's okay, we'll take care of that." And so they needed, because when you're on the cath lab table, you can't move. So that's where the fentanyl comes in. I was like, I don't really want to be a fentanyl guy. And but they pushed fentanyl and the bouncing stopped. And then when I was in the elevator, she was about to push some more. And I said, "They just gave me some." And she goes, "They did?"
I mean, thank God you were with it.
I don't know how
attention.
much it was. I'm not making any delusions of grandeur or anything, but I thought it was funny. And the fact that I was in an elevator and she about overdosed me with fentanyl. And I said, "I'm in an elevator. Don't prince me." And I loved that joke. It didn't land with the two. I don't know if they liked it, didn't get it. And I was like, you know what? Don't be a smart ass. Don't be a smart ass, especially the people that are, helping you. And then,
but you kept your wits about you.
I did. I kept my wits about me. And that's the whole point. I think, I don't know why or how, but I was really trying. I think that's what I latched onto, is being very focused, trying to stay calm, but then be a part of everything that was going on. And they got me in the cath lab and they put me on the table. And like I said, all of this happened very, very fast. And the cath lab nurse was talking to me through. She was getting me set up. She was transferring me to the table. I felt a guy down in my nether regions, and I looked down, and the guy shaving me, and then he's like, "Hey, little stick."
Femoral artery.
Yeah, so he's getting ready to put the 2 lines in my femoral artery and my femoral vein, because they need double access. And so he goes, "You can feel a little pinch." You know, and he goes, and now, because the only experience that I had with femoral lines is when my dad had angioplasty back in the early 2000s. And I was there when he did it, and they used to do a cut down. And they used to actually cut down and then pop a hole in your femoral artery, put the line in, it's like a catheter, and then they sew the artery wall around that to do the procedure. And then they take that out, and then they put this big like wad plug in there and sew it. And you can't like move for like a week.
Wow.
Like you've got to let that heal, otherwise you'll bleed out in like 90 seconds, right? Because that's one of your biggest veins or biggest arteries. And I didn't want that. And so as I was going into the cath lab after the elevator, I said, "Hey, I've been reading lately that they can do cath lab stuff through your wrist now." And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you think we could do that instead of the thing?" And the guy goes, "No, not happening." And I was like, damn, because I did not want that femoral line.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they do it differently now. It's fantastic. It's just it's like these 2.5-inch plastic shunts that they just bloop and they put in, and it goes up into your hip. It's not very comfortable. and that's the access. It's amazing.
I've been
And then-
there myself. I had a blocked artery about 6 years ago, and I was on the same table that you were.
Yes.
Now, my focus wasn't on asking questions. My focus was on the ceiling above me where blood had splattered from other. Did you see the ceiling? Did you see the blood on the ceiling?
Not in this one. This was bigger. This was a big room, but I know exactly
I
what.
couldn't stop thinking, why is there blood on the ceiling?
It's a lot of pressure coming out of there. I know exactly what
Yes.
you mean.
So that bleed out
And,
is a real thing. That's terrifying. But
yeah, and so I didn't want that, but it was different, and I had no choice. And but he was in, had the access. I'd only been on the table for 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and they were in, and then within like 3 or 4 minutes, the surgeon was in there working and cleared the blockage, and then my clot moved, and so he had to go chase that, and he chased that, put this repaired the put the stent in, got the clot out, and then I went into VTAC, and I thought I was gonna have to get shocked, but I was still awake. And I heard them saying, okay, he's in VTAC, it's like, do you want to shock or do you want to try Angiomax, which is a new med? And the surgeon calls from, he goes, oh, let's like push 10 of Angiomax. And so she does, and it ended up working and got me out of VTAC, and because that's not good. You don't want to be in VTAC. And so that resolved, and literally after a few minutes of him being in there, he's standing over me and he goes, okay, let me show you what we did. Little Filipino guy who's fantastic, and Dr. Aquino. And so he shows me the video, and he's like, okay, there's your blood, and this is me, your clot. I get it out and then put the stent in, and I'm sitting. I'm like, okay, I'm fascinated by all this because I think it's someone else. Like I'm watching a cool movie and learning something, but I was like, wait, no, that was just me. Like you were like, you're still in me. Like I still have these lines, and I actually have a temporary pacemaker in my heart beating right now for me. And I had that for a day and a half. And literally after a few minutes, it was all over. And he goes, it's like, I got you. We're good. You'll be all right. Yep. We got it. And he leaves. And then then it gets weird, and then you throw up all over the place because you have all this meds, and it's crazy. But he went and told my buddy Mike, and then my wife at the time was there, and my sister, my mom had arrived, and he went and told them what they didn't tell me for another day or two. And he goes, yep, we got him in here. We got it. This is what we did. He should be okay. We'll take a day or two to figure out how much heart muscle damage and whether he's leaving with a permanent pacemaker installed or not. But 10 more minutes? No. And so it was as fast as all that happened, from when I felt that first wonkiness on the tennis court to him finishing, was like 45 minutes.
So
Oh God.
Been a little over a year since all of this started. How is your since then? How is your life?
How are you?
Yeah.
How are you?
Well, I saw you in March. And I saw you in
but
October.
I didn't know all of these details.
October was 3 when I saw you guys in New Jersey or in Philadelphia. That was 3 months after the heart attack. So the thing is with heart attacks, it's that 12-month mark once you get there, and if according to the stats, if you can make it to the 12-month mark with no other incidences or issues, your odds of having something later on go way down. They're never zero again, but they go way down just stats wise. So I made it to the year mark. I have to take just a couple meds daily. I'm on a statin because my cholesterol is an issue because I have genetic high cholesterol issues, which is something that everybody needs to pay attention to or check, because you're not in control of that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what your lifestyle is. I'm the healthiest person that any of my friends knows, and I'm the one that had a heart attack. And no matter what your lifestyle is, it's always secondary to genetics. And I'm way behind a huge 8 ball on that with that particular issue. And it came up and tried to take me out. And I could technically go off one of my meds, but we've chosen to stay on it just for a little bit because it makes the stats even better if you stay on it for another 6
stay on
months
it
or so.
then.
And I don't like it though. It's a anticoagulation drug. Is a so like
Oh,
if you get bruised or cut, like it doesn't stop. It takes a while, and you bruise very easy.
yeah.
So it's not
So we
fun.
need to keep you in bubble wrap for a little
Yeah,
bit.
no, I got out of the bubble wrap zone very quickly, which was crazy. Um,
So was there anything like, was this just completely a fluke that this happened to you? I mean, did you have a history? Because you, like you said, you're young, you're healthy, and to have a heart attack of this magnitude.
yeah, I think it ended up really what it was a combination of a number of things that ended up all coming to the same party on the same day and saying, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? You want to get together? Let's take this guy out." So I think that's
Not
what ended up
today.
happening. And my dad actually had a heart attack when he was 49, but it was mild and he was fine. He ended up having bypass surgery in his 60s, and then he ended up getting taken out by something completely different. And he thought it was his heart, and it wasn't. His heart was fine. Um, but I'm not a very. I'm always been healthy. I've always been active. I eat pretty well. I don't drink much, if at all.
Mhm.
I don't. I've never smoked. I don't use. I supplement. Like I mean, I eat things that taste like earth and
Yeah, like
dirt,
you're a healthy
and
guy.
I'm a pretty healthy guy. Now, with that said, the last couple of years prior leading up to that, I hadn't gone and gotten lab work or a lot of physicals or checkups just because of being lazy and not disciplined and not very smart. Um, I'm also not a very stressful person. I'm not a stressy guy,
Mhm.
but that year and a half leading 2 years, year and a half leading up to that day, which was a year ago, were probably the most stress that I've ever encountered. I thought I had dealt with it or handled and got through it. I handle things, I compartmentalize and I internalize, but I also expel all that in different ways. Um, I probably had too much of that inside of me.
Yeah.
The other thing is not that I don't have any idea. I'm not saying it is or isn't. One things I was worried about is just 4 weeks prior, I'd had my second that COVID vaccine dose. And you're reading all these stories about like middle-aged men like dropping dead because they're having these cardiac issues, and they may or may not have had the vaccine. I'm like, no. And
Right.
but another interesting thing is 2 days prior, I had one of the things I hadn't done for the year or two before that was go see my dentist regularly, and I needed to have a decent cleaning, and so I ended up having a deep cleaning, which they always like to add on, and that's actually a very big trigger for cardiac events sometimes because the bacteria that's in your mouth ends up going and wreaking havoc in the rest of your body, and if something else can combo with that, I don't know if that's the cause or not.
Wow.
I hope it's not because you should go, it's I like going to
Maybe
the
just
dentist.
go for the basic cleaning.
Right, right. But
Little once over.
I think it was a combination of a lot of those things, and then really the main thing was that last year was kind of rough moving from LA going to Vegas because of COVID, and a lot of people don't know, but I'm talking about it more now, a year and change after the fact. But 2 weeks prior to the heart attack, I had actually gotten divorced, and that I had been with my wife at the time for 15 or 16 years.
Yeah.
And the last year or two had been just not fun, cooped up in a house with other people during COVID, and it just wasn't conducive to contentment or happiness, I guess. And so that month prior, or that 2 weeks really, was really sort of a refocusing of other stressful stuff that was trying to make something happen. And I think all of those things just kind of came together. And like I said, they all got together on Friday night and said, "Hey, what do you want to do tomorrow morning? Let's all team up and try to take this fucker out." And they tried. All those things got tried.
Well, they tried and they failed.
And that's right. I said, "Not today." You know,
Yeah.
gremlins
Not
or
today,
whatever you want to call them.
motherfucker.
That's right. And but it was just I wish I hadn't gone through it, because now you have a thing that you got to pay attention to and worry about, but also it refocuses so you can pay attention to that stuff and maybe, avoid something that will take you out later.
Well,
And
I
so,
guess to
that's
speak
something
to
we talk
that,
about now. Yeah.
yeah, to speak to that as far as like needing to pay attention, like how has this changed you? Has it changed you? Like how is this? Are you a different Andre now? Do you have a different outlook on life? Like, did it
Well,
affect?
I think that as much as you'd like to say no, you'd be incorrect. I think you're fundamentally or inherently changed when you go through something like that, at least a little
Yeah.
bit. I've realized now that I probably changed more than I thought. Everybody's like, "Oh, your outlook on life has changed," and like your whole lifestyle has to change. And I was like, actually, the lifestyle that people that have this switched is how I live. Like,
Right.
these people have to live like I live now.
Yeah, you
like
were already
always
there.
have. So there I was already there. So this is a little different. I think one of the things that I noticed that does change is you have a list, whether it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bullet points of things that you will allow your attention to, or that you will give energy to, or that you will have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
A lot of people say my priorities have changed, like from, my top, I'm completely different. My priorities are still the same on the top. What did change that I realized was there are 3 or 4 things that used to get my attention or take some energy of mine or some attention span. Those are not even topics anymore. Like they get nothing.
Yeah.
They get absolutely nothing, and they're not even issues. And so they don't exist anymore. And I don't know what those things are. It's those bottom list things that used to give your time to and be like an energy vampire on you or something. Like, no, I ain't got time
Well,
for that
that's
shit.
got to be freeing in a lot of ways, right?
It is, and I wish I had come to that conclusion prior to having a massive heart attack. But I don't like I don't like taking things. I don't like medications. I don't like things that fundamentally change how your body is supposed to work.
Mhm.
Ironically, that one med that I'm on, the clopidogrel, that is an antiplatelet drug. So it's and mainly what it is you take that for a year because your stent is kind of exposed, and you don't want your platelets sticking to your stent to cause another clot, which will kill. So basically, your body's trying to respond to something. A basic response from your body is clotting, so you don't die. Is the thing that's trying to kill you. So it's a weird. You're trying to prevent that from happening. But that's really all I'm on, and the statin, which is actually great at lowering the amount of cholesterol you make daily.
Right.
Cholesterol is a weird thing. I had been reading about cholesterol for 15 years prior to my heart attack. I understand it. I know what it is. I know my numbers. I tried to mitigate my familial genetic high cholesterol with diet and exercise. I did a pretty good job for a while. And then I started losing that battle. And that's probably the main factor.
Yeah.
So you don't want those blockages. You don't want cholesterol buildup. You need cholesterol daily. But one of the one thing that I learned, 15, 16 years ago is cholesterol is one of the most important things your body makes. You can't do anything without cholesterol. Your liver makes it for a reason. It helps you digest food. It takes cellular metabolism, does every function, has a role in almost every function that your body does on a daily basis. But it's the only substance, or one of the only substances that your body makes that you will also reabsorb. And you only need a certain amount a day. And the interesting thing is the only way your body gets rid of cholesterol, the excess that it doesn't, is it binds with fiber. And we have a very, very low fiber diet in this country. And so I went on a fiber kick like 15 years ago. Like, I add fiber to fiber, and none of us get enough fiber. And so that's how I was mitigating my cholesterol issue for a long time, is just upping my fiber to where the minimum is supposed to be, which is a crazy amount. And I'm a fiber fiend. Like, fiber is great, is your friend.
Yeah.
And but I apparently was away from that for a little bit, and I started losing that race, and it came up and tackled me literally. So that's the thing I always talk about is know your cholesterol, understand fiber, understand your diet, there's little things that you can do. You don't have to change your life. There's just little tiny things that make big differences for you that can help out. And don't not go to the doctor. Like get your
Yeah.
annual physical, get baseline readings. And then once you get 35, 40, definitely 45, start paying attention to yourself. And if things are weird, like pay attention, go ask about them.
Especially if you have a genetic component.
Especially if you have a genetic component. And a lot of people don't know if they do or not, but what did your parents have? What did your grandparents do? What are your older siblings experiencing? There's a lot of, I have a giant family on my mother's side, but my dad was adopted. So we don't really know much about that side.
Right.
Some weird stuff. And that's a whole other podcast. So we'll come back and talk about that. But
we'll take an extra deep dive.
Oh yeah. And, but at least learn as much as you can about yourself. And you have to be your own advocate. Doctors, especially now, which is really sucky after COVID, like doctors don't give a shit. Like they really don't. And if you find one that does, appreciate it and stick with it and latch onto that. But
and it sounds like what you were experiencing too, like obviously your body better than anybody. The difference between I'm just not feeling right to something's really off here. And I think you were really smart to listen to those signals, knowing this is not something typical. This is something a little bit more serious, because my goodness, to hear the doctors say 10 more minutes, and
if I had not gotten in the cath lab,
terrifying thing to hear.
Had too much dead, like everything would have shut down. And it would have been curtains. And which is crazy because we got in there pretty damn quick.
Yes.
I only stayed on the side of the tennis court for a few minutes. And then, like you said, I realized that pulse. I was like, that's not good.
Yeah.
I said, that's a thing that should get looked at. And then Mike was like, you don't look like we're getting you out of here. And we both came up with the same thing at the same time. It's like, let's get the fuck out of here. Yeah. And then we always joke, I walked out to his car. Like we're walking out with this other guy, Greg, and I walked in and out of my own heart attack to the place. Like,
so you couldn't physically see yourself. Your friend Mike did, but like, how were you looking? Like, were you pale? Were you sweating? What?
According to Mike, I was pretty gray and getting grayer, and that's when he started to really worry about the color. My knot, wasn't doing well, and because he had seen. One of the crazy things about my buddy Mike is he used to be an EMT, and most of the time he would volunteer and he would just go work at the huge trauma center in downtown Phoenix, like at the graveyard shift, because he was bored. He had a job at a bank. He used to run like a mortgage bank, but he would go work.
He would moonlight as a ER.
Yeah, and so that's when all the bad shit happens. Is nighttime in an ER, and he has some crazy stories about people dying in front of him and bad car wrecks and shootings and crazy stuff. But I knew something was wrong, and Mike definitely knew something was wrong. And so, like I said, I talk about things lining up in your favor. One of the weirdest things that is the cath lab, one of the cath lab techs kept asking me, he's like, so you were playing tennis? I said, yeah. I said, why is that so weird? He's like, no. He's like, you were playing tennis and then you felt bad. I said, yeah. He goes, best thing that happened to you today. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, what you had happens all the time to men early in the morning when we're sleeping. And you never know it. And you never wake up.
Wow.
And I went, he goes, so you getting up early and going to play tennis probably saved your life today. And I went, oh. So I said, I'm never sleeping again. I'm never going to sleep again. So I don't know if that was like a really weird thing to hear at that moment, because you're kind of vulnerable and you're weird. It's
all it makes me think about is that you are not done here.
And that's not. I've got at least something else to do, either with somebody or for somebody, and maybe that's it. I don't think it's about me. I think it's about experiences and how you impact other things or people. And maybe maybe I've got a little bit left in the tank.
Yeah, your journey is not finished. And I think I can speak for all of your fans. I speak as a friend. I'm grateful that you are still kicking it with us.
Well, I'll cheers to that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And there's also
my
that
invisible drink.
there's also the I don't know the word for it. It's that Vanessa, you're really good with helping me with words here. When a series of events that lead to something extraordinary, what is that? It's like kismet. Is that a good word? Serendipity. I'll go with serendipity.
Yeah.
All these
Yeah.
serendipitous moments you had, you were playing tennis instead of sleeping. You were awake and you were paying attention. That doctor just happened to walk by at that moment and said, all right, we're getting you out of here.
Yeah.
The med staff who was going to give you that double shot of fentanyl, but you like already had that. All these things lining up that saved your life. Very serendipitous, and
It is.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's 5 or 6 things that you can list there, and one of them is being with my buddy Mike. If I was with someone else, like they wouldn't have been as adamant, because I probably would have been like, yeah, I'm not feeling well. Let's go grab something to eat and see if it changes. It's like let's go to our taco spot, and I would have been dead ordering a taco. But
no, I think everything happened the way it was supposed to, so you could survive this.
Yeah, and I like to look at it sometimes when you're getting a little cosmic, or
cosmic.
when universalist is it gets. I always this is a separate thing, but I always tell my friends, I was like, don't have a heart attack. I don't recommend it. I already did it for us. Like I did it. I did it. I got it. I got us all.
You took one for the team.
I took one for the team. Now you don't have it. You don't have it. Like we're good. Like I did it. No one else has to do that. And then, I kind of look at it and I'm like, why, you don't feel bad about yourself or think you did something. Like, why did this happen, on a Saturday morning when you're 48? That seems really unfair. That kind of sucks. A lot of people are like, man, that sucks. You're so young. And, you can kind of look at it if you want to, in a way. It's like, I would rather go through this at 48, have the ability to get through it, and have it not happen until I'm 58 and not be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Or 68. And so hopefully this resets you and makes you a lot stronger going forward. And I won't ever have an issue with it. That's what I'm hoping.
Experience will help others as well. I mean, being able to share your story. And if people are like, oh, I felt like that before, or, my father has this, maybe I should, maybe people will be a little bit more aware and go.
Well, it already has, because I talk about it. I do a lot of podcasts, I do a lot of interviews, and I always, people want to talk about it, and I mention that. And I've had more than one person say, hey, you know what, something was bothering me, and because your story, I went and had it looked at, and it wasn't anything acute at that moment, but we found something that I have to pay attention to that's tangential, but just as dangerous for me. And I wouldn't have found that out if I didn't go in and get this shot. I was like, there you go.
Yeah.
And, I kind of have a saying for the year is, go get checked out. If something's not right, find out. And, as dudes, we're always like, no, I'll be all right. Rub some dirt on it. Let's go get a taco.
Don't ignore it.
Don't ignore it. You'd rather be wrong than too late. And so that's one of my new sayings is you'd rather be wrong than too late. And it's okay to be wrong about something. And one of my favorite people in the world, Wes Caldwell, who was very instrumental in making Wolfman's Got Nards, texted me the other day and said, hey man, you'd be proud of me. I was feeling a little weird and my chest was really tight. And I started, and he goes, so I went and got myself checked. It wasn't a heart-related issue. I was all checked out and fine. I think it was just anxiety induced from, stress from work. And, and I was like, well, that definitely happens. And then he goes, but I'm glad you went and got checked out, because if it was a heart issue and you were like, oh, it's just stress from my job, and then you sat there trying to continue working, you would have been dead.
Yeah.
And so I'm fine with that. I'm fine with people finding out. Like I said, it's better to be wrong than too late. If someone else can, I'm not trying to save people, but if an experience or a message can, motivate you to, I'm not trying to change your lifestyle, but lifestyle is a big deal too. It has a lot to do with it. So, if you smoke a pack a day, smoke half a pack a day. What
Right.
can you do? What can you do with a pack? That you
Oh,
can't do
I'll
with half
take
a
one
pack?
step further. Quit. It's bad for you.
Yeah, I'm an anti-smoker, but I try not to tell people what to do.
I'll tell them.
Let them make their own choices. But that's a big deal. It's very hard on your body, and drinking's
Yeah.
hard on your body. Eating poorly, like, you got to eat. You can eat what you want, but you got to balance it all. Life's about balance, and our body's an amazing machine, but it needs some balance, and it needs some help every once in a while. But that's been the message. And
Yeah.
what's really funny is I don't mind talking about it, and it's become a topic. And now I'm sort of this kind of like Pied Piper of the heart attack thing, behind Kevin Smith, because he had the same thing. He had
Yeah.
a different artery. His was his LAD, what they call the Widowmaker. Mine was in the RCA, the one just on the other side of it. And they're both bad. Like when one goes south, they're both bad. And I love that Kevin is very vocal about it and telling people. And I mean, look at him. He looks like a completely different person.
Yeah.
And I hope he sticks around for another 50 years. And it's funny because I just finally did something this week that I had started to do about 6-7 years ago. Is with the whole backstory, I'd actually come up with a great idea, or a neat idea. I thought it was a great idea, to start a men's health awareness campaign type of kind of awareness brand. I don't want to start a charity. I don't want to start a thing. I just wanted to start an awareness campaign and a brand. And I jokingly called it Save the Nards. And because we have a lot of health awareness campaigns, and
Yeah.
I love how big breast cancer awareness has grown. To where like the NFL's involved, and baseball's involved. That's a big get. And I was like, well, you know what, like, we have that, and we should have that. Most dudes don't talk about their shit or pay attention to their stuff, and
No.
not just their nards, but their toes or their back or their head or their thyroid or their heart. Or their kidneys. There's a lot to talk about there, and maybe there's some awareness there. And I started getting into that, and starting the brand and doing a thing about 6 or 7 years ago. And then I got really busy. I got busy with the show. I got busy, with the previous to the doc, and then I got into the documentary, and it kind of waylaid. And I'm just kicking that back into gear, because I think maybe now is the time to have the men's health awareness campaign called Save the Nards. So
I love it.
If I get enough people supporting that, and now there's a Twitter and an Instagram handle, Save the Nards.
Yes.
If people start following that, then I think now maybe there's some cool partnerships and events we can do, and you can wear a hat that says Save the Nards, and
I will follow it.
I'll make some hats.
I know. Yes. And I love your hats. And I all it is, it's about a conversation starter, and getting it's just awareness. That's all it is. And
I think it's a phenomenal idea. I think it's really good. I think kind of societally, specific to men, there's this conditioned thinking that, like you said, like everything's fine. They don't need to go to the doctor. They'll put some dirt on it, whatever. And it's like, you've got to take your health seriously. We have this one body and this one life.
Yes.
I think it's a phenomenal idea. So please keep us posted on what you're doing at that. We will support it.
I will. I mean, I think those handles are there. So if you want to be my first followers, you can go follow
I will. Yes.
Do we get a free t-shirt if we're the first follower?
Well, you're making the hats. So yes.
I love it.